Today I have Stephanie McMullen from All Family Massage. I think I've got the name right, in Shepparton in Victoria with me today. And she is going to give her experience of the Remedial Hot Stone Course. So take it away, Steph. Just introduce yourself and let us know who you like to treat.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Stephanie, All Family Massage here in Shepparton, Victoria. I am based in a chiropractor's office, so I have, I suppose, a good range of clientele from some young and some of the quite a lot a bit older as well. I tend to have a bit of a special interest in women's health and children and everything like that. But specifically, I try and treat without too much pain or too much extra pressure kind of going into the body. So I'm generally searching for new ways that I can actually provide that to my clientele. And generally it's lots of neck and shoulders and lower backs and things that I treat, and yeah, that's where we're kind of at. I've been here for a couple of years now, and I love it.
Oh, fantastic. Really good. And you've got an interesting sort of background into why you got into massage, but we might talk about that a bit later on.
Yeah, sure.
But really what I want to know is what began your interest in hot stones?
So like I was saying, I search for different ways that I can treat people that is going to be minimally invasive. It's not going to overstimulate the nervous system so that they're just creating more and more pain. I think if someone is in pain, particularly when I'm working alongside a chiropractor, so you've got you can have nerve and joint and all of those sorts of issues as well, you don't need more pain and more stimulation being put into the body. And so I came across Christine in a wonderful Hot Rocks, and the more I learned about it, the more I said I need this as soon as I can get it into my clinic. And and it's been fantastic ever since. So it's so nice that it can do so much of the work for us without putting that extra pressure on me, because obviously I've come into it a little bit older as well, so I'm not quite as conditioned as what some of the younger ones are. So my hands were starting to get a little bit sore, so there was also that benefit as well. But yeah, ideally looking for something that was going to be beneficial to the clients that I see and help them with that overall picture of health and well-being, instead of, well, let's just pummel into this glute muscle and yeah, that's kind of where, yeah.
Great, cool. Yeah. So how have your clients actually taken to it? Do you think it has worked for what you were looking for, that beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. Clients so far have loved it. Had a couple of marriage proposals in the first couple of weeks, so that was a nice surprise. You need to come home and live with me. Anyway, it's been really good, and I think the best part that I've found is that even with the knowledge that I have sort of accrued with the rocks, some of the stuff that we've gone over even in the class, that of how you treat with the rocks has changed the way that I've looked at how to treat some people with some different things. So I've had people that I've worked on, and then I've just tried this, stones for a couple of sessions and tried it the way that you've kind of introduced it, and all of a sudden we're having these changes, and I think QLs looked at so differently now. they're, they're brilliant. So it's no, it's everyone's been loving it, and and finding that they're I suppose the way that I've introduced it is that it's not like your typical spa treatment either. That it's a very specific modality of how we treat, and so then when they take that all on board, it becomes something unto itself, and they're loving it. So I've got some clients that they'll come in and, oh, good, you've got the heater on today, so know that they're they're getting their rocks done. So it's great.
Oh, cool. And are you offering it as a separate service, Steph, or are you just combining it with everything that you do and using it as you feel appropriate?
I'm using it as I feel appropriate. I look at it as a tool, essentially. So it's no different than using your little knobby things or your myofascial bits and pieces, and go, this is a tool that's going to help me do what I do. In my advertising, I have listed it there as hot rock remedial massage, as well as the remedial massage, just so that it's not scaring people because they only go, oh shit, I'm only doing hot rock, but it's also there as a bit of an interest thing as well. But I kind of look at it and go, look, if I think the hot rocks are going to work within the treatment, then I'll definitely ask and include them in. And there's been some people that I've kind of gone, oh look, I think the contraindicators aren't kind of going to work, so I've just not even worried about it, and it's just been something that's helping keep the room nice and cozy. But yeah, otherwise it's just something that I work into the treatments, and it's great.
Awesome. That sounds great. Sounds really, really good. How did you find the training in general, being a practical skill that you learned online? How did that work for you?
I look, it can probably seem a little bit daunting, and especially when you've got the concept of that it's a touch skill that you're learning. But having said that, if you're somebody who's already skilled in touch, so a remedial therapist or myotherapist or anybody like that, then you're only enhancing what you're actually already doing. So I think obviously we all as adults get a little bit nervous about learning new skills and this, but in our profession too, learning is something that you've got to take on board with that. We know that we constantly have to be learning new skills, and I think that the way that you've set it up with the online ability of it, I'm down here in Victoria. I would never have been able to fly up to. I would never have been able to take the time off to fly up to Sydney to train with you, or would have it wouldn't have worked for me. So being able to do it online means that, for you, you're able to reach so many more places around the country, if not world. But it's you've got the videos there that you can run over and over and rewind and watch that little bit over again, and rewind and watch that little bit over again, which did that a couple of times.
That's what they're for, Steph. That's what they're for.
And you don't get that in a classroom. So that's one of the things that, I suppose is difficult when you're in a classroom. You get shown something once, and then that's the demonstration over with. Whereas with the platform that you've set up, it means that we can watch it over and over again. And in a few months' time, when I go, oh, am I actually doing that the right way? Or, oh, I'm feeling a bit funny or clunky about this now, I can sort of go back and do it all again. So I personally am a huge fan of online learning between work and family and all of that sort of stuff. Trying to squeeze in anything else is crazy in my on my plate. So the fact that I can do it whenever is fantastic. So personally, I loved the online learning. I love online learning anyway, but I thought it was fantastic. So
cool, awesome. That's great to know. And we also had the Facebook group for connecting with the other therapists on the course, and our weekly meetings. How did all those elements work for you?
It was so good. It was I loved the fact that we had the weekly meeting, because it kept me on point of making sure, even though there was no pressure to have watched everything by then. Obviously, if you have seen everything by then, you get the most out of it, because that's when you can ask the relevant questions and everything like that. But I suppose one of the issues with online learning is that you can just do it at your own pace or anything like that. But having that weekly meeting really held you accountable, because you made sure that, one, you either had things that you were wanting to ask to get the most out of that session, or, having it sort of brought in that wonderful element of having a classroom as well, where somebody else will come in with either their knowledge or a question that you hadn't even thought about. And so you've got this whole extra layer of things as well. And I think the time and effort that you put into the Facebook group, and like any random question that we throw up on there is phenomenal. I know it helped me out with a few of my little case studies and scenarios and things, and and often not even, it doesn't even necessarily have to have been specifically a hot stone technique, but even when talking about the ruptured disc or the blown disc in the lower back and that particular client, and just being able to bounce that off you and the other people in the class as well was brilliant, because that would be something that I would probably kick myself over for a really long time, but now it's actually turned into a learning experience, which was so much better. So it's got that perfect triangular support network, I suppose, between the videos and the class and the access through the Facebook, and everybody wanting to help each other. So
yeah, it was a lovely group, very supportive group, weren't they?
They were
through
probably. So I know
yeah.
I've been in touch with a couple of them too, which is really nice, because it's kind of sad. And I think I was so sad when I missed the last class, because I'm like, I'm never going to see any of these people again. And not that you form tight bond connections, but it's just nice to know that you're going to see that person each week, or
Yeah. And you never know when your paths are going to cross again on some continuing education course or conference or massage forum or whatever. Suddenly you recognize the names and you go, oh, I know that person. It's just really lovely.
I decide to randomly take a holiday to Tassie or to and go, hey, I might actually go and have a bit of enjoyment of this myself. So,
yeah, it would be great to do that, wouldn't it? I'm kind of. Yes, well, I'm kind of playing with ideas for retreats and things. So, once we can travel and be safe and things like that. So I'm playing with lots of ideas around that. And yeah, I really appreciate your feedback on the course, how, for you, it felt like this foundation, this triangular foundation. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So for you, what was the most challenging thing about the training in general?
Look, I think just the learning of a new skill. Obviously, when we're putting the rocks in our hands, we've then got an extension of our arms, and trying to massage somebody when you're so used to holding yourself in a particular way, even though It might only be, that half an inch of extra depth to your hand. It changes things, and you're then juggling these two rocks. If you're working on both hands, that you're like, okay, where am I putting this? And I think we're going to do one of these, and I stopped talking in my sessions because I was having to concentrate so hard, until we realized that I was just really overthinking everything, because I was trying to be, this experienced person, like I've been doing it for 20 odd years, and I'm not accepting the fact that I was a newbie. But it is, you develop a bit of a juggling act, I suppose, and you're not wanting to, if someone's in a nice peaceful realm, you're not wanting to throw the rock back into you and make a big clunk into your thing. So it like inside, you're like, oh my goodness, what have I done? But I think just that in itself is just getting that balance of having a new technique was probably the difficulty, or the biggest difficulty that I had, next to time management of fitting it all in. But it wasn't even in excess for what the amount of study was that I was sort of doing. So it was the juggle of having rocks in my hands, because I've always been just skin to skin. I've never used tools. I've never used anything like that in my treatments before. So yeah, coordination.
And that's so interesting about that. I've never used any tools before. I've always just been skin to skin. So
Yep.
that's a massive change, isn't it, for a therapist,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And
You've transitioned that really well, I
yes,
think. Yeah. How do you feel now about your stones in your hands?
I feel naked without my stones now. I love having the stones in my hand. I'm even noticing, I've got my favorite stones that I keep grabbing because they're a certain shape, so they fit into a certain way in my hand, and I know that that's the best one for that particular area on the body. And it all, once you get into the habit of practicing with it, it all just comes so quickly. So it's the the more practice you do, the better it, and the quicker it all comes. And I love using it, and I think I remembered that, almost that switch at one point, from going, when I hadn't brought it in, my stones, into my clinic regularly enough, that I would have a client come through and I'd be like going, wow, this is so inadequate, what the treatment that I felt like I was giving them, because I'm like, I know how much more the stones would be giving them. So it would be like making that mental note that for the next time that they've booked, make sure I've got the stones in, and this is their filler session until I can get the real work done with the stones. So yeah.
Wow. And with, in saying that without the stones felt a little inadequate, do you find you're using the same amount of effort with the stones?
No, not at all. I think over the last couple of weeks, I've probably had my biggest weeks case-wise. So the biggest number of clients coming through my doors, and probably before the lead up into the shutdown, and before I even started studying, I would be, at the end of the day, my hands would be achy, or my by the end of the week, I was exhausted constantly, because I would just be putting so much effort into getting all of this treatments done. And now, I get very, very little pain or discomfort even. I'm not feeling exhausted. I'm feeling great being able to do the sessions, and I'm back to, I can do my full day of 9 till 6, sort of with that many clients sort of in there, and still feel fine. I'm tired, but still not feel like I'm crawling home, and with my little claws, because I can't do anything with my hands anymore. So it's so nice holding the warmth.
It is nice.
So I'm definitely getting as much out of it as my clients are.
That's so good to hear, Steph. Honestly, it makes a huge, huge, huge difference when we're not crawling home at the end of the day. Massive.
I can go, if I've been a little bit sore in my forearm, oh look, I'm just going to shove a little rock on there, and I'm just going to do a little bit of this while I'm waiting for my next client. Or I think I did something with my back, as you do, jumping around with kids, and I ended up sitting there having dinner one night with 2 of the stones like down in the back, just to heat
on
up
your waistband.
Waistband, because I was just like, oh, this is so nice. So yeah. Lots and lots.
That's so fantastic. So if a therapist came to you asking you about this course, would you recommend it? What would you say?
As long as they're not in Shepparton, yeah, I'd recommend it. But look, I think, no, I'm not telling anybody about it in this area. The GB is mine. So I'm already, looking at expanding the clinic, my clinic, and wanting to bring more people on, going, right, I'll have to make sure that they have a hot stone, they do the hot stone course, and, just that it can be our sort of setting. So, they have to be okay with working with hot stones if they're going to be employed by me. But yeah, no, definitely. I think I think for every other state, you should go for it. Don't encourage the Victorians, so they all need to come and see me.
Oh, that's so funny. I love it so much. And yeah, it is amazing. When I had my clinic and I taught all my staff, obviously, it was a massive point of difference for us as a clinic. And it meant that even though I was, I guess, the senior therapist, I could still charge over $100 for the other therapists' treatments, which made it much more viable in employment terms, because I could afford to pay them, which always a good idea. So it was a huge business benefit to me, absolutely, as well as all the other things that you've said. I too found it saved my hands. I too found that I was not exhausted at the end of the day. I remember that Zoom meeting we had, and somebody was just like, I just feel like such a cheat, and it's like because they weren't working so hard, they weren't exhausted, and they weren't sore, and I was just like, yeah, that's actually good. It's okay. And then the challenge with that was then to put up the price. Yes. So, so it's about understanding that it's actually fabulous that we're not, killing ourselves.
It's amazing the standard that we set, isn't it? That we go, well, we're not doing a good enough massage if we're not pummeling into somebody and we're not leaving exhausted. But it's just, it's a change, and, it's a whole shift in the way that we treat and the way that we should be treating. And it's the respect for our client's body. It's a respect for our own body. And it's the way that massage should be. We shouldn't be handing over all of our energy and self for somebody else so that they can feel better, so that we feel exhausted and horrible by the end of the day. We're supposed to be facilitating healing, and we're supposed to be be able to do this for a long term, not just for, you know, a couple of years until we're burnt out and then go, oh geez, what am I going to do now? I've just spent all this time studying and I can't do it anymore because everything hurts.
I
So
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I, like, seriously, it's like absolute music to my ears, Steph. And talking about saving your energy, you're saving your energy for your gorgeous family, aren't you?
yes.
And you're a very busy mum of four.
Yeah.
And am I right in thinking they were your inspiration for getting into massage in the first place?
Yes, very much so. I'd always been interested in the body. You know, if in different track, I would have loved to go down into medicine or something like that. But I have a single, and then I've got twins, and then I've got another single, and my twins, while I was pregnant with my single, were having a lot of difficulty with speech sounds and things like that. And so we started taking them to a chiropractor, and turned out my son in particular had really severe tongue tie. And so anyway, very long story short, we started working with a chiropractor, and it started off with her just seeing my son, and then her seeing the next one, and then seeing the next one, and seeing me while I was pregnant, and then my husband came in, and then the number 4 was born, and throughout all of this, she would be giving me bits and pieces to do with each of the kids in between sessions, and it was just phenomenal, the change in them. And one of my children is he's 11 and the twins are now 5, so there's about a 6-year age difference, and seeing the difference in his development versus their development, because they'd had all of this intervention essentially from a young age, was just amazing to me. And I'm like, this needs to be happening more. And you know, and I wanted to know more and more and more and more, and went, well, you know, sensible Stephanie said it's probably not practical for you to go to university when you've got 3 children under the age of 3 and one just starting school, and maybe that's a bit too much on your plate. So how about we start off with a diploma? So I did the diploma of remedial massage, and just fell in love. And I thought going into it, it was never going to be enough for me. I thought I was always going to go on and do myotherapy and go on and on and on. But I'm so in love with the modality and everything that it can do. And it's a shame when I hit the boundaries of the scope sometimes, because I want to follow things further. But I'm so grateful for everything that I can kind of do. And you know, my son with the tongue tie, we actually ended up using massage, or I used massage for him, just the stuff that I was doing with him at home, to get him through all of these really stressful appointments. You know, he was being poked and prodded, let's check your hearing, let's check this, let's check that. And he got to a point where he just went, I'm done, I'm not doing any of this. So we'd go and see an ENT, and he'd just be screaming the whole time. And it's really hard to check what's going on in inner ears and things where the child is screaming, because everything just turns red. So, or, you know, to test his hearing and, you know, things like that. Why isn't this speech developing? So I started working with him at home, and we had our massage pillow, and he would lay on his pillow, and that would become our sequence of getting him through these sessions, to the point where I'm now even able to use a massage as bribery to get him to go to bed sometimes if he's being a bit of a kid.
Sounds like he's developing just fine, Steph.
Oh, yeah, good. So that's kind of how to where I'm in. I think I think you value it so much more when you've had the experience of it. And I know there's so many people in later years that shift into massage because, or any something that instead of body work, because they've had that significant impact in their life, and they want to be able to share that with others. And I know that's definitely what kind of happened with me. And I just now I think I am too passionate.
I don't think there's such a thing as too passionate. What I absolutely love is, you know, there's no doubt in my mind, if you ever wanted to be a chiropractor or anything else, you could be. But because you love massage so much, there's the desire has dissipated. It's like, yeah, I could be all those things, but I know how much value I'm actually giving to so many other families.
And I feel like, you know, there's often times when it's so much more than just that muscle that we're working on.
Yeah, there's a lot more than just muscle work, isn't there?
Yeah, you're meeting so many more needs than just I've got this sore shoulder, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and sometimes we all know that that sore shoulder might not necessarily be what is the real problem. Sometimes it's so much more. So it's
You have been an absolute pleasure to have on the course.
oh,
Really
thank
fabulous student. You came to the Zoom week meetings and participated and did all your study and everything. So, you know, wrote in the group and everything. And anytime you had a challenge, you put that in. You were really open, and it really helps so many other people on the course. You've no idea
oh,
how much
good.
that actually helps people, and that someone's brave enough to go, I'm finding this really tricky, and everyone's going, oh, thank goodness, because that was me. um, so it's fabulous to have that brave person that is okay enough at being wobbly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it is just a wobble. It is just a wobble.
yeah,
And you came good, didn't you?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, no, I know, and I think that's a big part of it that's so good as well, is that you can send out your wobbles, and you know you have these people that will happily help catch you and guide you, and you know,
Support you. Pick you back
and
up. Come on, you can do it.
yeah, that's it. Smack you around a bit. That's all.
Yeah, there's
So
loads of that in the course. No.
look, I think, you know, there's there's I can't get enough information out of your brain. Like there's the amount of stuff that you are able to teach, and just every time you would introduce a new topic, or you you know, you cover everything, and I just, you know, could just listen to everything that you've
It's
got to share
hilarious.
for some time, and yeah, it's like just more. I just the amount of knowledge that you have, and you know, the book recommendations that you've given, and that I know you said have changed your the way you treat, and they're changing the way that we're all treating, and they've certainly changed the way that I've treated, and I'm not even all the way through them yet. It's just clicking, but you know, every little ounce of anything that you've given has been amazing. So I thank you, and you know, I think I've said it to you before, but you're changing lives. It's not just therapists, but you're changing our clients and our clinics and everything. So yeah, really, I can't thank you enough for that.
Oh, thank you so much, Steph.